A lot of fitness advice is very proactive. Do this to lose weight, do this to build muscle, take a protein shake. This seems like a good thing, and in many cases, it is. It's great to take our health into our own hands and enact positive change. But it's also only a very small part of the equation, because arguably what's even more important is what we don't do. Fitness doesn't just happen in the gym. It happens in all the small decisions we make during every day in our lives. Because ultimately, we work out for about 30 to 90 minutes a few times a week in most cases. That's an absolutely minuscule splash in the ocean compared to the huge amount of time we spend at work, sitting at a desk, commuting on trains or in cars, or just crashing out sitting on the sofa at home. These activities are actively detrimental to our health and fitness. They're degrading our bodies. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. The profound changes that sitting for so long, that staring at a screen for so long has on our bodies, and what we can do to address that. So you've probably heard just how bad sitting can be. You've likely heard, for example, that it can directly shorten your lifespan. This is due to the sheer lack of movement and the fact that it therefore takes a toll on your cardiovascular health. But unfortunately, sitting also does a lot more than that. It also means holding the same terrible posture for long durations. Your shoulders will likely be hunched and your neck will likely be protruding forwards as you crane over your screen. This can lead to a hunched posture called kyphosis. It can also lead to tight pecs as your arms are in front of you, poor overhead mobility as a result, poor thoracic mobility, reduced blood flow to the brain, tight traps, and increased tension throughout the body. Maintaining bad posture like this can also cause issues with your legs. Because your hips are constantly flexed, this can lead to the hip flexors becoming both tight and weak simultaneously. Meanwhile, the glutes, your butt muscles, become stretched, weak and inactive. In other words, you're using your glutes so little that you actually stop feeling the ability to use them at all, robbing you of your strength and explosiveness. Then there's pelvic alignment to think about. Sitting will often mean taking up either an anterior or posterior pelvic tilt, either of which can lead to issues when lifting things off the ground. And you'll likely be closing up your diaphragm and lungs as you compress your torso. This makes breathing more difficult, resulting in shallower breaths that activate the nervous system, putting you in a state of fight or flight. And this is bad news because it makes you literally more stressed as you're sitting there, often compounded by environmental factors like artificial light, stimulants like coffee, and deadlines. Some of you may already be typing in the comments, telling me that posture isn't such a big issue as we think it is. But let me finish. I know there's a pushback against this notion. I know there are people saying that there's no such thing as bad posture, that there's even no need to stretch or worry about it at all. And a common way I've seen people disprove the importance of posture is that they'll stand up straight and say, look, I can still stand up straight. How can I have bad posture? Well, that's because posture isn't necessarily about being physically trapped in one position, it's about habit. It's about reinforcing the same neural patterns over and over such that this becomes your default position. And it's about making the fascia stiff and awkward and not able to move as fluidly. It's about shortening certain muscles whilst others get elongated, changing their resting length, and likewise it means we get used to activating certain muscles in conjunction, such that we develop tension throughout the body when we're just trying to move in a loose and relaxed manner. You'll also find that not using certain positions results in a loss of mobility. If you never deep squat, your central nervous system freezes up when you try to get into that position. As many of you know, I used to be a freelance writer living in a small flat in London. My day started about 8 AM when my wife went to work, and I'd find a coffee shop to sit in with my Surface Pro. Then I'd type and drink coffee and churn out anything from 10,000 to 30,000 words in a single go. Weird flex, I know. I would do nothing but sit there for hours whilst drinking copious amounts of caffeine. And despite having been a very active individual all my life with interests in things like rock climbing, bodybuilding, martial arts, I started to develop a bad back. I lost the ability completely to get into deep squat. I lost the ability to get my hands over my head. My handstands got worse. And a lot of this channel and my journey on this channel has been me trying to address those things. How could I feel like a superhero, like Batman, when I couldn't squat, something we all should be able to do? Thing is, we also sit during our commutes very often, and then, when we get home, we sit again. And that's partly because we're lethargic, by the way. Lethargic, as I've explained on this channel, from a lack of movement, and now in a more sympathetic state, following a whole day of feeling tense and stressed working. Our environments are, meanwhile, arranged specifically to minimise movement wherever possible. There are chairs everywhere. All the objects in our homes and workplaces and where we go out, They're placed within easy reaching level, elevated to just the right height by tables so that we never even need to stoop or reach overhead to grab anything. Many gym routines only exacerbate these issues. If you're training your mirror muscles predominantly, your pecs and your shoulders and your abs, and you're ignoring things like the rotator cuffs, the rhomboids, the spinal erectors, the glutes, then you're creating further imbalances. Likewise, most routines ignore all rotating movements, all side-to-side movements. And seeing as that's the only exercise many of us are getting, it means we simply don't have any strength and often lack mobility in those entire planes of motion. And during all of this, we're also basically frying our brains. Cheers. The worst thing we do from this perspective is to simply repeat the same actions over and over again. As kids, as teenagers, we learn to drive, we learn to meet people, we learn new skills, maybe we are studying, but as we get older, we just learn very little that's new. When was the last time you learned something completely new, a new skill or a new movement? This all results in a lowered production of brain plasticity promoting chemicals like BDNF, and that in turn actually makes it harder to learn new things. This can affect your ability to pick up new skills, but it could also be partially responsible for the view that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It might even make us more extreme and dogged in our views over time. Something that I'm sure anyone who's spent a certain amount of time online lately will have experienced for themselves. Combine that with a lack of ability to change, with echo chambers and rage bait on the internet, and it's simply not good for our mental health. This is what people mean when they say get outside and touch grass, speak to real people, do real stuff. A lack of movement is also bad for our mental health. We know that exercise produces endorphins. We know that being outside in nature helps to calm the nervous system and set the circadian rhythms so that we sleep better. And the depressing part is that the harder we work trying to escape the rat race, the more we often end up destroying our own health even further. We're working towards this mythical time when we won't have to work so hard, but in doing so we're missing the opportunity to move more and feel better right now. And even clothing exacerbates this issue, by the way, because most of the time we're restricted and encumbered by our clothes. Answer me this, can you get into a deep squat in the trousers you're wearing right now? For most of us the answer will be no, or you'll hear a ripping sound and then have an embarrassing hole right where your crotch is. How are you surprised that your mobility is poor when you're literally restricted in your movement by your clothes? Again, movement isn't something you should just do a couple of times a week. It should be something you're always doing. For example, these look like ordinary jeans, but they're actually especially stretchy, allowing me to get into deep squats and all kinds of other positions. And shoes are the worst offenders in my experience. Regular shoes cut off sensation from the ground, preventing you from feeling the floor. This literally makes it harder to climb or to run on uneven terrain instantly. They also elevate your heels off the ground. This means your feet are constantly in plantar flexion, which means the calves are shortened. Is it any wonder that you can't squat without your shoes whilst keeping your heels on the floor? A position that was essentially the defaulting resting and defecating position prior to the invention of chairs. We are literally making ourselves weaker, restricting our movement, preventing proper breathing and circulation, letting many of our muscles and connective tissues atrophy. And in all honesty, I've barely scratched the surface. But that's enough of that. What is the solution? The good news is that there are easy lifestyle changes that we can make right away. First up, we can change that clothing. This video, like many of mine, is sponsored by Vivo Barefoot. They make barefoot shoes that are designed to get out of your foot's way and let you walk, run and climb more naturally. This is possible thanks to their thin sole that lets you feel the ground underneath, their wide toe box that lets you splay your toes, and their lack of heel which keeps your foot flat on the floor. I don't wear anything else because I find I instantly am able to run, climb and jump better because I can feel the ground, and because it lets me squat properly and feel the stretch in my ankle rather than always being in plantar flexion. Vivo Barefoot make what I think are the very best barefoot shoes. They are light, extremely comfortable, stylish, and they last forever. While other similar shoes often look strange and feel odd, the huge variety of great quality shoes Vivo Barefoot offers ensures you don't have to make any compromises. Vivo Barefoot offers a way for people to start training that's natural and strong, and they're perfect for getting outside more and reacquainting yourself with your true movement capabilities. And if you want to give them a try, Vivo Barefoot is offering Bioneer viewers a massive 20% discount. Just follow the link below and use code Bioneer20 at checkout. And the same goes for the rest of your clothes, by the way. Carry less and wear loose fitting trousers that let you move whenever you want to, that you can squat and do the splits in. We also need to stop thinking about health and fitness in terms of something you do at the gym, you see. Those of us who feel lethargic, stiff, restricted, we often try and fix this simply by spending time at the gym for a couple of hours a day. And the workouts we follow are very often cookie cutter. designed primarily to build muscle, to help us lift more on a specific few exercises, or just lose weight and look better. I liken this almost to keeping a hamster in a cage, but letting it run in a hamster wheel for a few minutes so it burns some energy. It's simply not enough. We're domesticating ourselves, but not in the good way. So first, we need to choose exercises that complement our lifestyles and that address the issues that we've introduced. Anyone who sits for a long time at the office should focus on strengthening their rhomboids, their lower traps, their rotator cuffs, their lats. They should also focus on strengthening the glutes and the hip flexors, whilst returning mobility to the hip flexors. They should focus on pelvic alignment and learning to hip hinge again. The same goes for our cognitive performance. If you spend all day focusing on something right in front of your eyes and feeling stressed, if you've picked up bad habits like shallow breathing, something like meditation can be hugely beneficial. Practice resting your gaze and deep breathing to relax the body. Let your mind wander. These are near universal weaknesses, and it makes a lot more sense to be focused on these rather than just building bigger pecs because it looks good. Likewise, you need to find ways to address some of these issues so that they aren't causing problems in the first place. This is why we need mobility and stretching. The body should be capable of moving in all the planes of motion that we need to be able to move in. But the truth is that because we don't, and because we spend so long fixed in one position, we've caused some predictable imbalances and shortcomings that we can fix with a well-designed mobility routine. If you find yourself sitting for long durations, as you probably do, you should find ways to alter your lifestyle so this isn't as much of a problem anymore. That might mean you invest in a standing desk, or perhaps a floor cushion that you can sit on. You can sit on the floor and work, and that's a lot more convenient and doable for a lot of people who don't have space in their office for a standing desk. While I don't agree with the knee-jerk reaction of saying that we don't need to think of posture at all, I do agree that the best posture is your next posture, as they say. If you move often, you won't develop these imbalances to the same extent. And to that end, simply having more than one place to work, more than one place to sit even, and moving between them frequently can make a world of difference. I have to worry about all of this a lot less these days as a parent who goes home for lunch and who does the school run. I'm rarely sitting for long at all anymore. It often feels frustrating to me that I can't sit and work for a long period. I'm always rushing, but because I spend more time doing those other things, my body and my health is just so much better. And the crazy thing is, as I've said before, I've got more energy now, I think, as a parent than I did before I was a parent. Of course, your ability to move around at work might be limited, but the less you can move at work, the more you're going to need to make up for it the rest of the time. And that means not just moving because it's exercise, not just working out, but walking, running, playing physical games, making movement a part of your lifestyle and habit, working out, yes, when you want some real stimulus for growth, but just moving and practicing and doing physical things the rest of the time. Go on regular daily walks. That might be all it takes. And you can find ways to integrate this into your lifestyle too. As you guys have heard, I like to swing kettlebells or kettleboils. They're kettleboil swings. Obviously you can ride a bike or walk on your commute, maybe take the stairs instead of the elevator, that kind of thing. Getting outside wherever possible, even doing your workouts outside, can do wonders for your mental health. We need natural light, fresh air and space to move. And I've discussed at length the huge benefits that training outside has to offer. Thanks to the more unpredictable terrain, the fact that every workout's going to be different. And again, think of your training in many ways as an antidote to a more sedentary and indoors lifestyle. Think of rewilding yourself. You'll find you surprisingly feel more energetic at the end of the day if you do this. Why not meet up with friends to play football, throw a frisbee? When you do this, not only are you going to improve your fitness in a myriad of ways, undo some of the damage that sitting in an office all day does, it's also, again, great for your mental health. And suddenly all of those arguments on the internet, they can seem a lot less important. Again, we need to get outside more, touch grass for our mental health and our physical health, and I think we're seeing this now more than ever. By the way, I know that all of this is quite different if you're a physical labourer. If you spend all day on a construction site, then being outside isn't an issue, and you're probably tired and lethargic from movement now. My advice for you guys is a little bit different, although not entirely different. But if you'd like me to make a video on that in future, if that's something you'd like to see, then let me know in the comments. If there's enough of a demand, then I certainly will. I do have a little bit of experience in this because at times I have also done physical jobs. And I think the most important thing is to simply be aware of the damage that sitting and looking at screens all day does. Not only the extent of the damage, but also the nature of the damage. Some of the specific changes in the body that we've discussed. That way you can start taking the logical steps to address those issues, whatever that might look like for you, because this advice is going to be different for everyone. And remember, sometimes you need to work a little less. While the grind is very trendy right now, it somewhat misses the point. What matters isn't impressing people online or making your boss happy, it's enjoying your body and keeping it healthy right now. Let me know what you guys think, and as always, if you want to start training in a way that addresses the entire body, building strength, mobility, endurance, brain health and more, then check out my ebook and training program Super Functional Training 2.0. It's currently on winter discount at the link below. Either way guys, thank you so much for watching, and bye for now!